and we'll get back to where we are, where we've been going over. So we're going over the masterclass book by Mark Olson and Mochi, and we've been going over the first chapter, and we'll go over basically his review questions today and the next session, and so that will be pretty thorough on that. And just to remind everyone, what this is about is called strategic visualization. And the idea is essentially we're going to identify in the opening roles whether we have a priming position or a blitzing position. And once you identify that, you determines your strategy. And so again, priming is you have points are not stacked, no deep points, spares are well distributed, whereas blitzing is points are stacked, you may have deep points and you have deep spares, and this isn't always clear. We'll look at some positions today where it has combinations of both, and it makes it a little bit trickier to interpret it, but it is helpful. And a lot of the decisions here are splitting decisions, whether you're going to split your checkers or not. And so we have a series of other rules that Mochi came up with, and I find it useful to kind of, which I generally rely on as a first step. But there are always situations where it's unclear what to do. You have conflicting indicators, conflicting rules. So sometimes if you can combine these positions, this strategic visualization with the other rules, you can usually come up with the right answer. So just to go through again what the summary of the chapter was, so based on whether you're priming and blitzing what your opponent is doing, that will tell you sort of what to do. So for instance, here, and as the summary goes, if we're priming and our opponent's priming, we're not going to split. We are going to split. So you want to split to the prime and not split to the blitz. And so you're going to try to split your back checkers if you're priming and going against prime, and try to extend your own prime. Obviously, you can't do both of those at the same time, but that's depends on what your rolls you get. And you make points in order. You want to make the better prime is unbroken and longer. If you're priming and your opponent's blitzing, you're not going to split your back checkers. You want an anchor. A low anchor is okay, but you're not going to split to get the higher anchor, and you're going to want to slot. If we're blitzing in a blitzing formation, we want to attack if we can. If we can't attack, try to escape the back checkers. We're generally not going to want to slot. Also, and if our opponent is blitzing, we also want to attack if possible, and then anchor wherever we can. Again, because we don't want to be, if our opponent is blitzing, we don't want to fall into his game plan, which is allowing us to be blitzed. And generally, we're not going to give up our anchor until we've reached some resolution on our blitz. Again, this is all subject to whatever roles we get. Sometimes we'd like to do one thing or another, but we can't because the role doesn't allow it. And so we got to make the best use of whatever roles we have. All right, so let's go into some of these.
Gary, 1 second.
Yeah.
Could you remind us, if it's you're priming in your opponent's blitzing, why it's okay to slot?
Well, you want to extend your prime. And so sometimes you can't make the points naturally. So generally you're going to want to slot either the back of the prime or the front of the prime in order to get, in order to extend it. And then, if our opponent is in a blitzing formation, we're going to be stacked usually at the ace point at this point. So, and so if we get hit off the slot, that will give us a chance to make an advanced anchor, a better chance to make the advanced anchor, because we can come in and then cover it, or at least come in and still have an anchor. At least if it's only on the ace point, at least we'll have that ace point anchor. So that's the idea behind that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's get into some positions. Oh, this is okay. Yeah, so here, yeah, again, the thing to do here is to identify this is what's our opponent doing, what's we're doing, what's our formation, and what's his formation. So here, this is a second roll, so we haven't done anything yet. And what does black have? What is black doing? Open with a 6-4.
He's blitzing.
Yeah, this is blitzing formation. Deep point, you made the 2-point. You can't prime from this, so that's a blitzing formation. So what do? We got a 5-4.
Prime.
2 down.
Yeah, bring 2 down.
Yeah, 2 down. We're not going to split into the blitzing formation. And so here's the case where our regular rules, we would say, okay, we stripped the 8-point. That's a good time to split, and normally it is, but in this case, because black is in the blitzing formation,
But you know what, Gary, and this always cracks me up. You have these things like in Michi's books. Never split against a blitzing formation.
Yeah.
Well, you split, and it's a 0.029 error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and here's another one. This. So this is also a blitzing formation. This is a 5-3 open, and you made the 3-point. So the 3-point is generally a blitzing point for purposes of whether you're priming or blitzing on the opening. And in this case, you actually do split.
Well, there's no difference between it.
Yeah. And so there is no difference. So all these rules are well, I think Michi got it best. They're proverbs more than rules. They're helpful guidelines, they're rules of thumb, but they're not hard and fast. There's always extenuating circumstances or one thing or another, or as in this case, well, it doesn't really matter. Because here you've got a case of, okay, stripped 8-point says split, blitzing formation says don't split. Neither one of these are particularly overwhelming signs to one thing or another. So, and in fact, it doesn't matter. And then even this one, okay, so you got the same thing. This says don't split, whereas the stripped 8-point says to split. And the answer is, well, it doesn't really matter. And part of it is, this is not a strong blitzing formation. But there's no prime here either. But it is it's a more of a blitz than this. Okay, because this theory, there's some chance you still could get a prime out of this, having made the 3-point, but there's virtually no chance that you're going to get a prime out of this. Because you've got 4 points to fill, and you just don't have checkers to do that. So which is why.
Yeah. So if black's made the 4-point, I think you split, don't you? But looks quite dangerous.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So here's what this is a priming formation, and again you've got a gap here and here, but so and maybe it's better to think of it as on a spectrum. This is the biggest blitzing formation of having made an inner board point. This is sort of intermediate area. This is, and we'll look at the answer here. This is a priming situation, and this is the ultimate, I guess, priming situation after a first inner board point, making after your first row making an inner board point. And of course you can't split here, so this one is 2 down. But yeah, so all of these they aren't definitive answers to necessarily the things. They're things to look at, and you have to look at it and interpret it. But they sort of give you the guideline. If you look through the positions through this lens, it does help you get the right idea. And so a lot of this stuff too these things are so common that you can just remember them. You can sort of forget the guidelines, but guidelines more helpful when you're in odd situations, that you don't, someone has made up an odd opening roll or has an odd setup. Then they become more important. Okay, let's look at
How
another.
would you play 2-3 here, Gary?
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
How would you play a 2-3 instead of 5-4?
Yeah, okay, so 2-3. So stripped 8-point, we want to split into the stripped 8-point. So I'm going to come up 3 and down 2. And so that's actually up 2 and down 3 is slightly better, but they're basically the same play. And here's another split. And then it's slightly worse to come 2 down.
Mm.
But again, it's a stripped 8-point here. You step up to it. And well, stripped 8-point, and here it's the priming formation too. So you want to split into the prime.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so what do we've got going down here?
Well, now you're saying we split based on what you said before. You split here.
Why is that?
That's what because you told us that before just a second ago.
Well, no, this is not the same situation. This is very different, actually.
Oh, well, before you said it was on the 22 points, so you split.
No, the opposite.
No. It's the opposite. Yeah, this is the blitzing formation. You've made the 3-point. Black open with, well, we open with a 4-2. Black opens with the double 5s.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so we are in, we're priming here because we've got the 4-point. Black is blitzing because they have the
Right.
3-point.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. The other thing that it doesn't quite make the summaries, but it's important, Moshi mentions it, is the race. If you're behind in the race, generally priming is to your advantage. It will give you more timing. And then if you're up in the race, generally you're blitzing. And so that factors into it as well. And here Black opened with the double 5, so Black is way up in the race. Okay, so we've identified, Black is blitzing, White is priming. What do we do with the 4-3?
Bring 2 down.
Yeah, 2 down because we don't split. Just to bring in the other rules, Black now has 10 in the zone, and generally we don't want to split with 10 in the zone. And again, and Black has not split or made an advanced anchor, and we're not well blocked. So all those things point to not splitting, but we're going over relisting versus priming formations here, so that tells you also not to split. And so it's 2 down. Now in this case, it's it's a big blunder to split here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, 6-3. So what do we have going on here?
Well, it looks like we've had double 5, so we're blitzing.
Yeah, we got the double 5, so we're blitzing. What's Black doing?
Priming.
Black is priming. Yeah, Black's up to 5-point, and the spares are distributed a little bit. There's even another one out here, which is not all that useful, but it's there. So what's the play here?
I think it's to the 5th run all the way. It's just the best of a bad job.
Yeah, I mean, we're blitzing and we'd like to blitz, but we have nothing to blitz against. So we can't do that. We can't make, a point. So, but, we're the third, just a reminder, we attack if possible, well, we can't. Okay, but then now we escape a back checker if we can. So, let's do that. As opposed to, 6 up and 3 down. And we are, we're up in the race. So, If we can't blitz, then the race is our next option, I guess. And so, the answer here is to, okay, run out. And again, and anything else is a blunder to not do that, or to, other than running out. Okay.
I was thinking 24, 18, 24, 20 or 21, so you could make that point after you're hit. But
Okay.
guess not. I mean, I know it's a blunder, but
Yeah, I mean,
he wouldn't be able to cover, he wouldn't be able to hit both.
I seem to have lost the position here. So it was, let's see. So I think this was the position.
And 6-3.
Yeah, and then
We'd had double five.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so 6-3. So you wanted to come up here and down.
No, then 24,
No,
21.
Oh, then what?
He wanted to move
Oh,
one.
two up.
I know it's a
Yeah.
blunder, but he hits me on the 18 point.
Yeah.
And then he's going to leave him open. He's going to have a blot on 21 if he hits me there too. In
Yeah.
other words, I'm trying to get that 4 point.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about, but it leaves a lot of shots, and a lot of,
Yeah.
so you've got, 4s and 6s here, to point on the 21 point. You've got, 4s, 2s and 1s to do that. You've got double 1s is a double hit and a point. 3s is a double hit. So yeah, you're giving black a lot of shots with that roll. So let's look and see where it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of good jokers. This is the roll. Yeah. A lot of good jokers for black. If you do that, if you come up with 2, so that you're just giving him too much to work with. Okay. All right, so what's going on here?
Oh,
Well, black is what?
Black is blitzing.
Black is blitzing. Yes. What are we doing?
we're
Prime.
priming.
We're in a priming formation. Yeah. So,
Oh,
do we
One
split?
day.
Do we split or not split?
We don't
Split.
split.
We
Maybe
do not split. Yeah, we don't split into priming formation.
13, 10, 6, 5.
Yeah, that'd be good. Even probably that's probably the best play because it distributes. For priming formation, we want to distribute our spares more evenly to make. We'd like to make the 4 or the bar here. And so that's the best play. 13 to 9 isn't bad. Surprisingly, that's worse to me anyway. Well, I guess it's not surprising. Here, we've got now 3 spares to make the 4 point. Actually, we can count this one as a spare too. So we got 4 to make the 4 point, which is what we want. And we've got two or 3 here to make the bar point. Again, we can use the 8 as a spare, even though we'd rather not break the 8, but to make the better point, well, we can do that. As opposed to this, where we've got the same number of points to make the bar point, but 1 fewer to make the 4. So yeah, so that's why that's better. And then surprisingly, well, splitting is kind of bad here, but it's not terrible. Okay. So now what are we doing?
Mm,
Rear blitz again, he's or she is
Mm.
priming.
Yeah,
I
and so
think
that
I
tells us to do.
38, 24, 22, I think.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah, 13
Yeah.
split. 2 down. It's not terrible, but you know, you do want to split against here. Against the priming formation.
Gary, if you move 24, 22, that leaves a 6 and a 5, a 6 and a 3, a 5 and a something. It just seems to me like it leaves so many shots on that 22 spot.
Yeah, well, it does, but there are, you know, you've got three launching points here. And this one, if you use the 9 point, you're going to leave a blot there, a blot here and a blot there. So yeah, I mean, you'd rather not split into all these checkers. In fact, you know, again, going back to the Michi splitting rules, you know, we've got 10 in the zone, and so that tells you that's a sign not to split. But
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
yeah, but and black doesn't really have an advanced anchor, but you know, it has sort of. I mean, the 2 point is not really an advanced anchor, but it sort of split up. So that's, you know, that's a really weak sign to split. You know, it's not an advanced anchor, but it's not exactly the 8 point anchor either. So, but you know, but again, this is where if you combine the, you know, the Michi rules with this type of approach, you know, you can see here that what to do. And
So-
you know, go ahead.
I just have one more question. Do you ever think about if you move like the 24, 22, then he could make that point on the 22. Now that's taken up one of those points for you to come back in.
Yeah.
Whereas if you make another move, he may hit you, but he's not going to make a point. Do you still have
Well,
moving room? in the-
what other move are you talking about? Keep in mind too that if he does hit us here, he's now given up or really weakened his priming game. He's now into probably more of a blitzing game, and we can, you know, being on the bar, we have a number of rolls to come in and make the advanced anchor. Yeah, I think we've seen a couple of those situations where it's actually better to have been hit and be on the bar than it is to be stuck in the back here against this type of situation. I'm not
Okay.
sure if it applies here, but yeah, again, we don't want to get primed here, so we've got to step up.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, so now this is a tricky one. Because what does it look like? What do we have? What does black have?
Well, we're kind of the same.
Yeah, except for there's a big difference. Yeah, it looks the
Well,
same. We both have our 5 points, but what's the difference?
he has a spare on the 17.
Yeah, and
Got a 5th checker on the 6 point.
on the so black rolled double fours, putting him up in a race. So you know, one of the tricky things here. So is black priming or is black blitzing here?
Combo.
So it's a little of both. Yeah.
Priming.
Now, Mochi actually calls this more of a blitzing position than a priming position, so it's a little unusual that way. But you know, here's another situation where, okay, don't forget Mochi's rules. And what are Mochi's rules here?
Fight for the
8
point.
point not stripped, black no advanced anchor, black not split, 10 checkers in the zone. So we've got no sign, none of those signs tell us to split. We've got 10 checkers in the zone sign that tells us not to split. So you know that, and then if we take Mochi's observation that this is actually more of a blitzing position than a priming position, what do we do then? In terms of, do we split or not split?
We
13,
don't.
11, 13, 10.
Yeah, we don't split. We're gonna come down with two, even coming down with just to the 8 point is okay. You know, so those here's a case where, you know, it's the combination of the two gives you a little clearer guidance on this. But even again, this one was with you know, Michi's rules, you wouldn't split because of the 10 in the zone. But you know, and for Mochi's view, you'd have to recognize that this is also blitzing. In fact, he calls it more of a blitzing position than a priming position, just because of I guess because of the stacks, and you know, and we're up in the race and that sort of thing, and spares are not well distributed for all those reasons. It tends to be more of a blitz than a prime, but again, that's not exactly obvious until you look at positions like this. Okay,
Hmm.
what have we got here? And this one I'd say, have to say, I would probably get wrong before going over this. So what, you know, what are we up against and what do we have?
Up against the blitz.
Yeah, black is clearly blitzing. The deep point on the 2 is a blitzing. The stack on the 5 point or the 6 point is certainly blitzing. So this is a blitzing position, and then 10 in the zone. Yeah, that's a blitz. And what are we doing?
Well, I guess would
13,
you
8,
make
13.
your interior point?
Well, no. First, let's ask what's our formation? Okay, we got it. We opened with a 6-1 and we made the bar point. Does that mean that we're in a blitzing formation or a priming formation here?
Priming.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's a little because we made this bar point, but it's a little of both.
Because we only have 9 checkers.
Yeah, we only have 9 checkers, but we're stacked here, and we've got no spares distributed anywhere. So that's also a blitzing formation. So
Oh, geez. Just make it one or the other.
yeah, you expected this to be easy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and so this is you know, the tricky part with this approach is that we look to a position where it's not at all obvious to begin with what's going on, because there are elements of both blitzing and priming in the formation, so you have to know how to interpret it. So but in any case, we know that black is blitzing here, is in a blitzing formation, so that tells us what?
Not to split.
Not to split, yeah. So we're going to come up with, so we're not going to split. Now we know that. Now here's a case where the Michi's proverbs, we're well blocked here. So that would tell us to split. Usually that's a pretty good sign to split.
Yeah.
But okay, so we're well blocked, but black hasn't split and hasn't gotten an advanced anchor, and black has 10 in the zone. So we've got a 10 in the zone tells you not to split. Well blocked tells you to split. So we've got conflicting signals there. So here's a case where, okay, this is clearly clearly blitzing. So that should send us over to, okay, let's not split here. But then what do we do? Well, there are 2 plays that make sense, and what are they, and where do you think tilts it?
Well, I'd say
Well, I'd
that
make the 3 point.
Okay, well, that's one of the plays. What's the other play that you should consider?
13, 8, 13, 10.
2 down.
Right, yeah, 2 down, because that doesn't split. So which is better, do you
or
think?
could it even be just slotting the 5 point? So
Hmm.
Could be.
it's a few more hits than we're giving anyway, but they're probably too many.
Yeah. I think there was. This is a case of we're priming against the blitzing, we would want a slot. If we're blitzing against a blitz, we wouldn't slot. Although it shows up here, but so the question is, are we priming or blitzing? We want to help that. So and here's the case where this doesn't help. We're doing a little bit of both. So, but so yeah. So I mean, this is a tough one. We'll we'll look at the answer and explain why. And so here, it's this is why we can call this a blitzing formation. The blitzing seems to work out more. We've got the stack here, and in this place, now now we're maybe the way to look at it is now we're shifting to a blitzing formation. Or we're going with the blitzing. We had elements of both when we have this, the 3 prime, but we're stacked and we have no spares well distributed. Now we're shifting into a blitzing position, and that's that's because that's kind of the role that we got. And the next best play is not too bad if you want to do this. This one is 2 down. So again,
Can you move them?
I'm
Can
sorry.
you move them to the 3-point? Move the checkers to the 3-point. See what it looks like.
Oh, this. Oh,
No, the 5. Yeah. So you think that's a blitzing formation?
oh, this. Yeah, this clearly is because you've got the deeper point, 3-point, and you still have this stack here.
Oh, wow. I mean, you bring a guy down to the 8 and you're in business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is still, this is still, this is better than what black has because we've got a better point than black. So, but otherwise, other than that, they're, they're kind of the same.
Mhm. Oh,
One
that's
thing
true.
too, I used to bring it the one thing that's good to keep in mind, it comes up in odd places, is that when you're making a point, it's better to have a point, or having this point for having the 8-point for black is far less valuable than white's having its 8-point. And the reason is that this checker is 6 away. So this point is not nearly as valuable to black as this point would be to white.
Say that again.
Because generally, if you make a point that's exactly 6 pips away from a point that you already have, it makes that point less valuable.
Okay.
It's good to keep in mind. So this point is not that valuable for black because we've already got the 2-point, and so it doesn't really help in the prime so much. I mean, a point is better than nothing, better than a blot, but you're gonna just as soon have the 9-point, or certainly more of the 5-point or the 4-point than the 8-point. Whereas this is a really strong point for white because we don't have the 2-point.
Yeah, the 8 and the 2
That's a little bit off topic. I'm sorry, Ray, go ahead.
The 8 and the 2 can't both be in the same prime.
That's right. That's right.
That's
a good way to remember too. Even though we're blitzing here, we still, it might turn into a prime, and so yeah, checkers 6, which would make a 7 prime. A 7 prime is not more useful than a 6 prime. So, okay, but that's a little bit off topic. Let's do second last one. So here, this is another situation where keep in mind that when you're on the bar and you're coming in, it's also potentially a splitting decision that you have to make. And so, what do we do here? Obviously, we're going to come in on the ace, and then hopefully, obviously, we're going to make the 5-point here. Although maybe not. I guess you could make the 3-point. But so I would almost automatically make the 5-point when you get double ones like this.
They always say 5 points, the number one choice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, certainly when when you've got black has two checkers back there.
The question is what to do with the fourth one.
Yeah. So what do we do with the fourth one?
I'd say you go 23, 22. Oh,
Yeah. So we're going to come in.
but they're blitzing on you.
Yeah. So here, so now with our final choice, we have a choice of we can anchor or we can split, say. I guess we could also have remained split by doing like 6-5 or something like that. But so do we want to split here or do we want to
I guess anchor because you're 7. He got 11. He's got 11 checkers on.
yeah. So yes, the question is what about the splitting rule? So he's got black has not split, there's no advanced anchor. So that doesn't tell us we need to split. We're not really well blocked here, so that tells us we don't really need to split. But what kind of formation does black have?
Blitz.
So yeah, it's a little bit tricky because you got the 5 point and slotted the bar point. So you could think of this as priming, but the 5 checkers here, that tends to make it more of a blitz. And the fact that he stripped 8 point or stripped midpoint means that we don't really have a lot of spares well distributed here. So this is a blitz, so we probably shouldn't so we shouldn't split, we should anchor in this case.
Is black's formation what Michi calls front loaded? Front loaded.
I don't remember him using it, but I think so. If you mean like, yeah, because you've got all these spares, way to the front of his prime. So these aren't really the only way that these checkers are useful is either in a blitz or making the 4 point or 3 point, and it's hard, and they're not really useful for that because you need double 2s or double 1s or double 3s, I guess, to make this point. And that's kind of, they're not that many, you need low doubles, and that's, there aren't that many of that number of rolls. So, I don't remember what context he said that in, but yeah, this is a little bit front loaded.
Well, he's the only book I've read, so it must be from him.
Yeah. All right, so that was that. There was one problem we had a while ago where this came up. It was I think on the other book. Where it wasn't clear what to do. And this is a little bit different. And that this isn't an early game roll. This is more middle game, late game, but we still have the decision to split here. And why? So so let's look at it. First of all, let's go through Michi's splitting rules. And what do we have?
Advanced anchor.
Well, black has an advanced anchor, so that says what?
Split.
Better split. Black has a swell block, so that says split.
Split.
Yeah, but black has a 3 point. Not really stacked, so but that's kind of what type of position?
Blitz.
That's a
blitzing position, yeah.
Mhm.
So with a 4-2, what do we do with that? You've got
black's got very strong potential to make the 4 or 5 points, sort of turning it into a prime.
Yeah, so what do we do? So I mean the choices are really if we split, we come out to the 20 point. If we don't split, we can come down to the 6. Probably the two choices.
The 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 7, yeah. Come down to the bar point, yeah. From the midpoint. So what's the
Well, I would split because I think the next rule, I'm gonna be stuck back there. Black's
Yeah.
gonna fill in his spaces and I'm gonna be stuck.
Yeah, and the answer was to split.
There's so many rolls that can hit.
Yeah, well, it's not, you're not in good position here. With this move, you're 40%, but if you don't split, you're 35% because you're gonna, there's a lot of, there are a lot of rolls that make a point here or that are you're gonna get hit loose probably. But, and so, why is that? But you've got two signs to tell you to split that are pretty strong, and you've got one that's fairly strong that tells you not to split. Part of the answer though is and I think this is more true as you get, when we're talking about this early game, we're talking about really priming position formations and blitzing formations, but they're not really well-developed primes or blitzes. They're kind of, formations that could develop into that. So, having a stack checkers is not really a blitz yet, but that's usually the best game plan you have when you have that stack. So, but here we've already sort of developed a position. So, we're obviously in a priming position because we can't blitz. He's got the advanced anchor. We do that. This is kind of a stack here. But we're also in a situation where we can't, with this roll, we can't advance our prime. There's okay, we could slot the 9, but that's not really what we want to do. We've got to leave. First of all, we give up a direct shot, and if we don't, well, I guess we bring 2 down. So we're going to give up two blots here, 2 shots at it. So that doesn't really advance the cause here. Our best chance here is to call and split. And again, this was a situation where, even if we get pointed on, we're in a better situation coming in from the bar than we would have been had, like a 2-1 had, or 6-1 had, or 6-2 for that matter, had then we would have been with 2 checkers on the ace point, and then having made that same point. So here we're, and these are tricky to see, when you're making the move, but it's better, it's actually better to be on the bar again if everyone had made the 5 point than it is to be stuck in the back, stuck on the ace point. Again, so these are tricky positions, and it's certainly not clear what the best move is here. It's if you're going strictly on rules basis, the rules give you sometimes conflicting information, and you have to work beyond the rule to get to the next level. You have to understand more in depth of what the position is and what it means, rather than following rules, simply following rules. Okay, so that is it for this session. Let me stop the recording.